So this is my website here, and this is the platform that I use to distribute all the information regarding the courses that are being taught. And as an introduction, my name is Daniel Lee. I teach at the high school computer science classes, and they also have an assignment over at the elementary sites teaching an after-school coding club, where we meet 2 days a week at each site at Carver and Valentine. And if you want to go to my site, it's codecreative.us. You can just type that in, hit enter, it'll take you to the index page here, and you can see the first box is Scratch, and if you click on it, there's like a little bit of an intro video, and it starts out with Google CS First curriculum. And Google CS First curriculum is great because what they have here is a set of modules, right? So each of these is a module: storytelling, friends, design, sports, game design, and animation. And I'm just linking to their modules from my website. And so we get here, and I'll go ahead and click on the first lesson. So they have a video that the kids watch, and then they follow the instructions here before moving on to the next video and set of instructions. And what they're working on here is scratch.mit.edu site, which, if you haven't played around with, is a it's a platform that was designed by a team over at MIT to just take away some of the barriers to entry for those who are interested in programming, but maybe are just not mature enough to sit there and type in the exact syntax of the code. So what they have is blocks that you go ahead and click together. So we have this green flag. You hit the green flag, it executes the code that is clicked onto the bottom of the green flag. There's nothing there, so when I click the green flag, nothing happens to the cat. However, if I say hello for 2 seconds and then I hit the green flag, then he says hello for 2 seconds, right? And then we can move forward. The beautiful thing about Scratch is we have all of the core concepts that are being taught at the university level, at the career level, right? Here on Scratch. So we have a forever loop, we have branches, we have functions. There's no object-oriented programming just yet, but we have variables that we can make, arrays, which they call lists, and so on, right? So it just teaches kids at a very young age these fundamental skills that are foreign to them if they aren't exposed to a platform like this where they can explore these programming concepts. So there's lots of students I reach at the high school level that have zero experience, and on first exposure they're just thrown for a loop and confused. But this will exposure to this site and some lessons, appropriate lessons, at a young age would neutralize that. So so that's that. And then this is what we do at the elementary sites. It's a 10-week program that the fifth graders are able to take. And then if they take a second year or a second course, second time, then here are some extension projects that I've created, right? So this is like a chatbot, cook with me gaming program, a couple of games here, and it just takes what they've done, the foundational skills they learned up here, and just takes them to the next level. So that's the Scratch. And then here we have CodeHS, which is like the a class at the high school site, and it is considered like the intro course to programming. Right? So here we have our, what is CodeHS, daily schedule, all of the stuff that I need to send out to the students to make sure that we're all on the same page. And then what we're doing here is we're going through the CodeHS site, which is an online platform where everything is contained online. They log in and they work through the curriculum. It starts out with programming with Carol, which is an awesome way to introduce students to programming concepts, the best that I've seen in my 8 years in the profession. And so what do we have? This is our starting world. This is Carol, our dog, and this is the ending world, and this is what we want Carol to be able to do. Right, so we hit the run button, and it goes through the program, highlighting which line of code is executing at which time. So it makes it very clear the control flow of the program. So that's what this is all about. We start off with Carol to teach them the basics of branch statements, functions, right? And then things get a little bit more complicated as we move forward and we get to the nitty-gritty. If this will ever load. Okay, so then we get into JavaScript graphics, and here this JavaScript is not JavaScript as you find on a website, right? So you can't just take your code here, copy and paste it into a JavaScript file, upload it to your website, and it'll function the same way. It's a subscript of JavaScript, and it's like in some ways it's a mutation as well, and it is simply the connection between JavaScript and web applications is not clear, right? It's simply a tool that's being used to teach computer science fundamentals. And so here we go through a couple of basics, variables, branch statements, functions, parameters, graphics challenges. There are shapes that you can put onto the screen, right? Maybe I could show you one of them. Here's ghosts. And you can create a shape, set its color, its size, its location onto the screen, and then you can add them, right? So if I hit run, I create these ghosts, right? And what are these ghosts? Well, each one is drawn by a call to the function draw ghost, right? You give the function a set of parameters, the x position, the y position, the color, and then that function goes ahead and adds all the different shapes that make up a ghost, right? And what is a ghost made up of? A circular head, a square body, circular feet, circular eyes, and circular pupils. So that's what they work up to, and then eventually they learn about timers and ways that they can get the shapes moving across the screen, and they finish the lesson series with a creation of Breakout, which I know is Arkanoid. I'm not sure what version you folks have played around with, but if I go ahead and hit run and then I click on the screen, then I could bounce and I could hit the bricks, right? So so that's Code HS, and that's the Intro to Computer Science class at the high school. Okay, so going back here, we move on down. This is Python. This is my little baby here. When I was first hired, I was told you're going to be teaching in Python. I was told that you're going to be using interactivepython.org, which was a blessing because it has all the text that I need to teach the students the computer science skills that they need to complete the higher level projects. This book is short, to the point, can be a little bit dense at times, can be a bit confusing, but luckily they have videos inserted in. They have places where you can type in code and run it and see what happens, right? So it's been a blessing having this available, and this has actually been adopted by many colleges to be used in their introductory computer science classes, right? And the guy who runs this, I think there's a donation box here at the bottom, but Brad Miller, he's a professor at some college, and this is just a backyard project for him, right? So he has a team, a couple people that work with him, but this is all just him, building a tool that he could use to better teach his classes, and he shared it with everybody. So then what the Python class does is it uses this textbook here, and we read through a couple of chapters. Once we finish a chapter, there's a set of exercises that students complete. And once they get to a certain point where they've built enough skills, then we go ahead and come back to my site here, and then we complete a project, right? So they go ahead and learn about variables and shapes and things like that, and then they come back here and they complete the Draw Something project, right? And you can see here a couple of examples of things that students have created. And so this is the third iteration of the course, and I think I've gotten a little bit better at teaching the class because these examples here are far better than what I received the first year. But these are all and then here are some videos that I've added to teach the students additional skills that they would implement when putting this together to make their drawings a little bit more interesting, right? So right, and then once they finish the project, then they're going to come back on the Interactive Python, continue through the text exercises. When they get to a certain point, they're going to come back here and they're going to do the next project with this racing turtles. And what is racing turtles? We have a set of turtles that are on the screen. They are all started at the starting line, and there's a countdown: 3, 2, 1. The turtles all move forward at random intervals, and there's a winner that's declared once the turtles get to the end. The extension exercise here, all the projects have an extension exercise for those who are motivated and able to put that together. And the extension here would be to stop the race after the third turtle crosses the finish line, print out the colors of all the finishers, have a beginning and ending screen, and add a betting system. Right? So yeah, you can come onto my site and maybe look at a couple of these examples that I posted up. And then also every project also has a set of instructional videos, just giving them the tools they need to make their projects a little bit more interesting, things that weren't gone over in the interactive textbook, right? So that's the rhythm of the class. It's like interactive Python project, interactive Python project, interactive Python project, and yeah, and it ends with a magic 8-ball, right? And so what is the magic 8-ball? It's a ball you shake, and it tells you yes, no, or maybe depending on the question that you ask. And so it's kind of just a fun toy that I ran across throughout my childhood, right? And yeah, so here is a written guide that would take students through, and then I noticed that some students, especially ELs, English learners, they weren't able to access the written guide, and I was having to spend a lot of time working with them one-on-one to get them through the material. So the way that I thought I would neutralize that is I would take stuff that I found over here, and when working with the elementary students, and implement it here at the high school. And so what I did is I made a set of videos, right, where it's task-based. And so it's the same material as what is found in the written guide, right? Same material, same challenge exercises. Now you try, right? I've turned into challenge exercises. And so what it is just like task, watch the video, complete the challenge exercises, right? Task, hint, watch the video, and complete the task, right? So yeah, it's like what is it? The task, a hint, and then they could try to complete the task based on the hint. But if they need a little bit more support, then they could watch the video and complete the task. Right? And then after going through breaking new ground with the tasks, then eventually we get to a challenge exercise where they go ahead and apply some of those skills to a different function of the project. Okay. Yeah, and I found that this has been very successful in allowing students access to the curriculum, and I spend a lot less time, working with students work on clearing up any confusing points, right, that were brought up in the guide. And so so this is the first semester of the course, right? And that's basically, I think of it as just teaching the fundamentals of programming, right? Giving them enough practice and experience to where they can have confidence moving forward, which they're going to need, because we're going to get, in the second semester, getting into the game design portion of the curriculum, and we are using the Pygame module, which is a module, a set of files, a library of functionalities that we can use in Python to create 2D video games. And so this is kind of a joy for me personally, just because when I first decided on making this a video game centered course, I went ahead and found out about Pygame, and then went onto YouTube. I'm like, okay, cool, we can make video games, great. So I come over here, I type in Pygame, and it takes me to this Mario Brothers game, right? So I look at this video here, and I watch what this kid did. And if I turn up the volume, you can see he has the music and everything, the animations. I'm like, wow, that's awesome, right? Let's go ahead and do that. And then I started to look at some examples of code, and went through some tutorials, and then read some books, or I didn't actually read a book, but I read some text online, the Pygame documentation, and then I began to have second thoughts. I began to get scared, because it was just all a confusing, jumbled mess to me. I've had quite a bit of experience programming and everything, but I just couldn't put it together. I was just basically soaking myself in code, tutorials, documentation for about 2 months, and I was still at the same place. I was just like, what is going on here? I have no idea how this all works, but eventually it clicked. And then piece by piece, I kind of put it all together, and then I built the curriculum that we see here. Started out with a set of written guides, right? And then eventually I put together the videos as well, so that we could kind of give more access. And as I was saying, this is like a joy to me because now I understand Pygame very well. I'm like, I know it on a pretty deep level, and so I'm able to tell my class or show them this video here, and then tell them that by the end of the course they're going to be able to know how to put this together, right? When that was something that I wasn't capable of doing when I first encountered it. So that's why it's kind of a joy to teach this class, because I've taken some students through the course and they've been able to put some games together on their own, and we'll get to that. We'll get to some examples of that as we move through this video. But yeah, Pong's beginnings. I broke up Pong into 3 pieces, and yeah. So here we have. Okay, I'm sorry. So yeah, I broke up Pong into 3 pieces: beginnings, objectification, endings. And beginnings, what are they going to do? They're just going to put together this very simple Pong game. It looks simple, but things get complicated pretty quickly. So the kids have to get into the nitty-gritty of how Pygame works, which is showing them how all 2D games work, which is different from what you would intuitively suppose from an education in algebra and geometry and trigonometry and things like that. It's just built a little bit differently, and really exercises all of the skills that they've learned in the past semester, right? So so that's that. And then I have them build Pong procedurally, meaning just using functions and not using the object-oriented programming model, because when I was going through my college education, that was the point. That was the sticking point, right? I was okay, branches, that makes sense. Okay, variables, that makes sense. Loops, okay, cool. Like functions, it's kind of a leap, but I can put it together. And then objects and classes, and I'm just like, what is going on, right? There's some magic happening here that I don't understand. So I just wanted to make it extremely clear exactly what was happening, right? And so what is happening when you move from a procedural model to a object-oriented model is simply a rearrangement of the way that the code is executed, right? It's the same code. You have one program that's procedurally written. You have that same program object-oriented, written using object-oriented principles, and you run through the control flow of what line of code is executed at what time, and you'll see that the exact same lines of code are being executed at the exact same time in both files. Right. So I wanted to make that clear. So they go ahead and build this little application here procedurally, right? And then in Objectification, the first thing that they do is go back to Interactive Python, read through a couple of chapters on classes and objects, go through some exercises, come back, complete this small little project on making this procedural game object-oriented, right? And then we go back to endings, right? And so what is endings? It's applying the object-oriented principles to Pong, their procedural Pong, right? So that connection should be extremely clear, and there shouldn't be much confusion, right? And so if you're a little bit curious on what the Pong is going to be looking like, this is the ending of it, or the final product. Right, so we have a intro screen. We have the click here to start. We click on the screen, and it will start the game. We have a countdown, ball in the center, graphics, background. The score fades in, bounce off of the paddles, and so on. Right, and then there's like a score. If it goes up to 3, then we have an ending screen where you click to continue. Should probably say insert coin, but yeah. So we have like basically a full-blown game, right? So Yeah, so that's what I work the kids through, and that's the first tutorial that I have them go through with Pygame, teaching them the basics. And then we have density, which teaches them how to use groups. And so what is density? It's this, like at the time, this was game Argario IO that everybody was playing. So I just was kind of inspired by that. And when you're playing a game, you always want to collect the power-ups, right? So then these are basically power-ups here, and you're trying to increase your density. As your density increases, your ship grows, and then once you get to a certain density, then you just kind of explode. You win, and your character expands to fill the screen. The pills have different colors representing different density values, right? The blacks are rarer and they're worth more. The yellows are more prolific and they're worth less. And so this was just like a easy game that I could use to teach the kids how to control groups of sprites using one command, right? So all of these sprites, all these pills are controlled using one command, right? They're all updated using one command. They're all put onto the screen using another command. But a game like this would be impossible without learning about this functionality of Pygame. So that's what I had them do, and hopefully by the end of this year I'll have better examples that I can put up here, right? This one they didn't incorporate graphics or a beginning screen or anything like that, but they did do a good job, right? And I had them go ahead and talk about the game that they built. Right, so then that's density. And then finally to end, this is actually like one of my favorite games, Raiden 2, which if we look over here, Raiden 2, I had a console, or not a console, but a cabinet of this at the donut shop next to my high school. And it is a beautiful game. It's like almost perfection, because the thing is that the only way to beat the game, there's like 5 levels. The only way to beat the game is to never die, right? Because once you die, then you lose all your power-ups. So once you're that far into the game, you're at level 3. It's basically like just a hail of bullets, right? So you have to have your ship completely powered up and have him able to shoot like fill the screen with bullets as well. So okay, give me 1 second. Wendy, can you open the door? Thanks. And so basically you have to become an expert at the game, right? You have to memorize where the enemies are coming. Anyways, I have a deep passion for this game, and I never beat it. I've only gotten to level 3 at a level 5, and I'm extremely proud of that fact. Right? So then I had them build this game, right? And the trick to getting this game built, or the new aspect of having the new element, is the camera. So you can notice the camera follows the ship left to right, and it moves upward at a constant rate, right, until you get to the boss where it stops, I believe. And so the camera is an extremely confusing algorithm. I don't know, for me at least, right? I ran into it, and I was like, first, like, how do I put this together? And then I found the camera algorithm, and I was just staring at it, looking at it. I couldn't follow it. I couldn't understand what was happening for like a good 2 weeks. And again, I just osmosis and jumped into the vat. And just kind of looked at it every once in a while, right? Brought it with me to like the supermarket and whatnot. Just kind of stared at it whenever I had free time. And eventually it clicked. Eventually I got it. I know what's happening there. And it's an interesting innovation in gaming, which allowed Mario Brothers and all these other great games that we had available to us as kids, or at least I did. And so then I take them through that and make sure that they're comfortable with how that all works, and then from there they have all the tools they need to go ahead and build whatever game they want. So then we get to our final project, where they can either go back and redo Pong and add additional functionalities, go back, redo density, make it even better, go back to Raiden and redo that. And I also give them side-scroller starting packs and top-down starting packs, right, if they wanted to use that. And so here, and these starting packs are extremely bare bone, right? So it's not like I'm doing the work for them. And so then here are some examples of some work that some of the students have done. And so these 3 guys, they worked through the curriculum really fast, and by the end of it, they had 3 months to work on this project, right? So they had quite a bit of time. And so although graphically it's not very impressive, right? they recruited students at the school to help them draw the characters, right? But they didn't get everything in yet, so then we still have gray background and then black walls here. But most of this is animated, and the way it works is that this is a thief, and you're going through a museum or whatnot and trying to steal whatever it is that your mission is asking you to do. And this is his house here. There were enough sprites to fill this up. And so we have these different missions. And something that I didn't notice when they first put it together was that I believe this is me. So this doesn't look like any of three of those guys, and so I think they were just giving me homage by putting me into the game. But so that's that, and and these three all went to go study computer science at the university level. He went to, I think, I forgot which school he went to, but Andy went to University of Illinois, which is a top 5 CS program in the United States, and he tells me that he still uses this. It's still in his University of Illinois is like a school where Facebook and all Google and all these come to recruit talent, right? So he tells me that he still uses this as part of his resume when he's looking for internships and jobs, right? So I thought that was really cool, because where else could these guys have 3 months to work on a single project, right, as part of a team? And so definitely not at the university level, right, at the undergraduate level. And anyways, we have a couple more games here. There's this one that was created by Raymond and Payal. 2 spaceships, right, utilizing the camera. You're trying to shoot each other. There are obstacles, there are power-ups. You have a little health bar or health number in front of you. And this was actually really impressive what they did as well. And so you can go through and look at the different examples of what students have done. This guy here built a top-down in the vein of NES, Super Nintendo. We got the enemies, you can touch them, and then he had a kind of a cool attacking system where you can defend and also attack, right? And you need to charge up your energy before you can attack effectively. And then the way that he set it up was that you had to defeat one of the enemies to get the key in order to open up the chest, to get the sword, to defeat the more powerful enemy, to get the key to open up the chest so that you can get the the shield, so that you could defeat the boss and exit, right? So this is just kind of a prototype, and it's kind of a cool little game that this guy built and put together. So then that's the Pong. I hope this video is not going too long. Hopefully you're jumping around, skipping along. And then finally here we have Java. This is the AP class, and what I'm using is the Blue Pelican textbook. You can click here. You can see it was recommended by a student, actually. He let me know that there was a friend that he knew that was teaching the class and successfully, and he was using this book, and he swore by it. So I took a look at it. It looked good. It was straight to the point, and I'm using it as the student's first exposure to Java. So then I broke it up into modules, module 1, module 2, module 3, and the way this works is we go through Blue Pelican, then we do a couple problem sets to exercise those skills, and then they work on a project, right? And then there's some exam prep, right, where it's kind of boring work where we're learning strategies on how to score well in the AP exam, which takes about 2-3 months to get the students prepared for that. But yeah, that's the AP class. And then finally, there's a full stack curriculum here where I taught a course at the App Academy in Pasadena, and at Pasadena High School, and I was asked to have the students build them up to where they can build a social media site. So I did that, and it worked successfully, and I was able to get the students to do that. And so when I came here to San Marino, I wanted to put that back together again, right? Put that curriculum back together. So I've been working on it, in my spare time. But I was only able to complete the first half of the curriculum, which was the creation of a cookie clicker, game, which is just like a JavaScript game here, right? Mine doesn't look as beautiful, but in this in this curriculum, which is set up the same way, where we have it broken up into modules, right? Module 1, Module 2, Module 3, with each module having a set of lessons that are task-based, right? And then video, task, video, challenge, exercise. At the end of it, they build a responsive website. And what does responsive mean? It means when I change the size of the screen, the display changes, right? So if I view it on a phone, this is what I would see. When I view it on a desktop, this is what I would see. Right. So then first I have them build a simple website that doesn't include a responsive design element, and then incorporate the responsive element using the skeleton boilerplate, which I'm not sure if people still use it, but that's what people were using back in 2013. And then we use JavaScript to build a cookie clicker game, right? What is this about? You click on the cookies to increase your number of cookies, and then you can buy these buildings for a certain number of cookies, which will increase your cookies per second. So now I'm building cookies without even pressing the cookie, right-clicking on it, and you can get to astronomical numbers where this is like to the power of e to the 23, right? Cookies per second. So it's just basically a never-ending game that has that motivation where you just want to keep getting more and more and more. Anyways, so then they build Cookie Clicker, and then they build a login system, right? But to build a login system, you need to build an account creation system. So in this lesson series here, I teach them about the database interaction, SQL, PHP to handle the data coming in from the form on the HTML side, coming to the server. And then we use PHP to insert it into the database and also extract the information from the database. PHP is doesn't scale well. So the first version of Facebook was written in PHP, but that was his prototype. That was Mark Zuckerberg in his dorm room putting it together, right? But when they scaled up, they needed to use a different platform, right? So this is like a good language to prototype, not a good language to deploy an actual product, right? But it teaches the students all of the different dynamics that are going on, right? So you got the information on the client side, on the front end, on the web page that is sent using a form to the server. The server receives that information, edits it or manipulates it in some way, and then constructs the SQL query, sends that to the database server, which is located on the server, and then retrieves the information, right, using PHP as well, PHP and MySQL. And also in this lesson series, I also teach them or give them an example of Ajax and JSON. And these acronyms might be a bit foreign to you, but we've all used it, right? When we're on, I don't want to go to my email page, but when we're on Google, right? Gmail, you're viewing your emails, and suddenly a new email pops up, right? You didn't do anything, but that happened automatically. And so what was happening there? What was the dynamic? What was happening is that in the background there is a every 10 second or every 30 seconds there's a query that's being sent to the server, to the database on the server, asking the question, are there any new emails for this account? Right? Every 30 seconds or so. And if there is one that just recently came into the database, then it's automatically retrieved and then placed into my Gmail screen. Right? So that's Ajax and JSON. That's how that's happening. And so I add that to the Cookie Clicker game where they save their game state, their number of cookies, the cookies per second, how many buildings they've bought, and then when they log back in, it automatically reloads that using Ajax and JSON, right? So it just opens up that possibility of what they can do with that, right? So then, then there's save and reset, which is the Ajax JSON stuff, and then and then we end the tutorial series with export, which is how to take this from this web application that we've built from existing on the desktop to uploading it to a server so that we can play it on, anyone can take a look at it. And so that process is sticky. if somebody doesn't guide you through it. And this lesson series here, I didn't have enough time. I got to right there, but that's just one last bit that I need to put together. Walking people through that process, right? And what that entails is leasing your name, and then renting some space on a server, uploading your files, recreating your database onto your web provider, right? Their platform, and then that's about it. Oh, and then changing your PHP files, right, to match up with the login information and the database names that are found on the web provider's system, right? So again, that was like very sticky going through that the first time. So guiding someone through that is key to this whole process. So anyways, that's the first half of this curriculum, and the second half, which is something I want to do, but I'm at the point where I don't have enough time because I have a master's program that I'm going to be starting in January, or this month, and then I also have like a new class that I got to put together, or think about and put together. But the second half of this would be to take these skills and apply them to the building or creation of a social media site, which at first glance you would think, wow, that's a big leap, but it's not. It really isn't. I mean, all you need to do to put together a social media site like a Facebook is to be able to know how to insert one piece of data into a database and retrieve that piece of data. That's basically all you need. And from there, you can build Facebook, basically. So it's going through that process. The reason why I built this curriculum here, there's no class for this. You know what I mean? Like, I built this out of passion, right? And so why did I put this together and spend all that time? It's because when I was going through this process and I was tasked with, they were like, okay, we want you to teach the kids how to build a social media site. I was like, okay. I looked on some tutorials online, and again, I was just like, what are they talking about? Because what the tutorials were showing is just how to do it. They weren't telling why, or they weren't teaching. They were just showing. Right? They're starting, okay, you make this class, so you're going to type in this name, and you're going to have these instance variables, and so that's where their starting point was, right? So I had no idea what was going on. I was on my way to Peru. That's where I spend most of my summers. And on the plane ride there, I was thinking, I was just kind of scared and nervous, and I was thinking, eventually I just had this epiphany, like where everything made sense, because I knew how to insert a piece of data into a database and retrieve it, but social media site, what? That's a huge leap. But then I had this epiphany, like, oh, that's how it's all put together, right? You have these tables, and every row in the table has a certain key, where every account has a certain number that's attached to it. Like, all of my fields of information in the database will have the number 25 attached to it, and then I could just go and take all the information that have that key number in it, the 25, and then take it and display it onto the screen, right? I mean, it just all made sense. And then when I put it together over in Peru, I felt like I went through what Mark Zuckerberg went through. I mean, he probably was referencing textbooks, right, or reference books, but I was referencing, documentation online, which was pretty much the only difference. And maybe the difference was that he didn't have any reference point, like there was no existing Facebook. Well, I guess it was MySpace, right? So he knew that it was possible, right? Just like I knew it was possible. So I guess there's not much of a difference there. But it was exciting. I was like, oh, and then how do I encrypt the data? Oh, and that's how you do it. Oh, and how do I upload a video? Oh, there's a PHP method that does that. Oh, how do I upload a sound file? Oh, there's a PHP file function that does that. Oh, okay, cool. And so it's just like putting all of that together was just like such an exhilarating experience, like something that I've never felt like throughout my entire life, basically, right, throughout university and all of the coding experiences that I've had. And it was so powerful because at the end of it, I looked at all the different web applications, which before were magical, right, sorcery, and I see, I know exactly how they did that. Maybe there's some parts that I don't know exactly, how they put that together. There's some JavaScript going on to make the page, look beautiful, and, for there to be animation and things like that. But the core, the skeleton of it, right? The core of it, the essence of these applications, that it's clear. I know exactly how that's put together. And so I want the students to have that excitement, so that's why I put this together. That's why I spent the time putting this together, and why I want to also put together the second portion. Right. I'm at the point in my life where I don't have the creative ability, I don't know, they say creativity is a muscle, but, at the moment I'm just full, right? My mind is full. I have so much on my plate where I can't take those skills and apply them to solve a problem that's existing in the world, create a product, right? But these students, right, you give them the tools and they will fly. I feel like they will fly with it, and they'd come back after a weekend looking tired and saying, hey, Mr. Lee, look what I made. Right, like they did with the video game stuff, right? That's kind of some of the excitement that I'm feeling from some of the students towards the video game portion of the curriculum. So anyways, that's why this is here, and this is my go-to curriculum whenever students don't have anything to do. It's yeah. So I mean, that's just something that I would love to have the students be excited about, as excited as I am. Anyways. Okay, so this video was longer than I thought, and hopefully you skip through it so that you can, get the gist of what is happening at the high school. We have down here VR. I think VR is the future. But again, I wanted to put this together, but I don't have time to learn about it and put it together at the moment. And yeah, I bet you at the end of this 2-year process, when I do have free time, I'll be kicking myself for not learning about it, because it'll be in high demand, right? But anyhow, that's what's happening at the high school and the elementary sites. And hopefully that was informative.